r/AskReddit. What's the most unethical experiment that you would like to know the outcome of? NSFW. Actual unethical experiment story here, complete with results. My dad was a skydiver back in the 60s. There was a guy in his club that was a nut. He had the idea that he could test the axiom that cats always land on their feet from free fall altitude, where he would fall with them and observe their self-righting behavior. He had no interest in aiding their descent, just wanted to see how they behaved in free fall. In his plan, landing was the cat's problem, not his. Scientific impartiality, or some such thing. He took 4 stray cats up in a pillowcase for the jump. After exiting the plane, he turned the pillowcase inside out, releasing the cats. To his great surprise, all 4 cats attached themselves to his body immediately, with their claws. Given that cats have 18 claws each, he was punctured at least 72 times. More, probably, because he struggled vainly to remove the cats as he fell. But they were having none of it, and would reattach with even more conviction with every effort he made to pull them off. Presently, he was out of altitude, and had to turn his attention to opening the chute. Let's pause to do some math. A chute opening can generate as much as 3 gs of force. The average cat weighs 8 pounds at 1 g. At 3 gs, this becomes 24 pounds per cat. So when the chute opened, for a moment this guy had 72 razor sharp claws in his skin, each one being pulled down with a force of about 1 1/3 pounds. That's 96 pounds of cat. He was sliced to ribbons. Basically all 4 cats hung on through the chute opening. Although the skydiver's shredded flesh allowed each one to slip several inches, bleeding and in misery, the skydiver managed to make a safe, if rather rough, landing in a farm field as soon as he hit the earth. All 4 cats ran off across the field, leaving him to lie there bleeding from his 100 or so wounds. He was the only member of the skydiving club that was displeased with the results of his experiment. Edit. Whoa, my first gold. Thanks a ton. Kind Reddit stranger Reddit again. HFS. My second gold. I should only ever retell my dad's stories on Reddit from now on. Thanks. Take all the sperm that one man releases, approximately 200 million, and use all of them to fertilize the same egg that has been cloned 200 million times and see the spectrum of children it produces. I think it would be interesting to see all the differences between them. Yep, then take all the kids and make them fight and see who would win. Clone somebody multiple times, put them in different conditions. Now we truly see how much is nature and how much is nurture. So basically orphan black. How many toddlers could I actually take in a fight? Take a Sentinel's person, sedate them, and have them wake up in the middle of Times Square. I wanna see just how mind-blowing it is and how she would react. They made this movie. The kid killed a bunch of pigeons and climbed the Statue of Liberty. Give groups of pregnant women varying amounts of substances believed to be dangerous to fetuses and study the results. What it would feel like to bite someone's teeth. You almost wouldn't want to do it, but so curious. Just tried it. It was weird. Kill everyone with an IQ lower than average every generation. Do this for 200 years. Do we end up with a smarter overall population, lower crime, lower unemployment, huge technological and medical breakthroughs? Raise a baby with no human contact, only completely inhuman robots. As it gets older, teach it a completely bullshit history about a robot uprising in addition to a bunch of other misinformation. Finally, when he turns 18, release him into society and see what happens. There's a short story by Philip K. Dick, Blade Runner, A Scanner Darkly, Total Recall, etc., where some dude is an archaeologist in the future. Humans literally filled a valley between 2 mountains with trash, and he's excavating and shit like that. Then he finds a body, then a few more, then hundreds more, then thousands. Turns out aliens showed up, wiped out humanity, then took their place. So he's actually an alien, raised as a human, investigating extinct humans, was ducking weird man. I think it would be very interesting to study feral children more thoroughly. Unfortunately, it is seen as pretty unethical to place children with animals and let the child be raised by a group of monkeys simply for the sake of science. What happens to people when you take out certain parts of their brains? I always find it interesting to read about what is discovered when people have brain injuries and how they change. Look at the cases of Hum and Phineas Gage. Really interesting case studies on men with brain damage. Create a Frankenstein monster type creation out of transplants and stem cell grown organs and see if it would live or not. Then make another Frankenstein and have them fight. What happens when you lock an autistic child in a dark room with a turkey? Living turkey or frozen bittable turkey? Your question adds a whole new element of hilarity. Can you make a pathological liar tell the truth with enough negative behavioral reinforcement? And something similar with psychopaths and feelings. This is very interesting. My sister is a pathological liar. She will lie or exaggerate when telling the truth would be better. I do wonder what would happen to her if there was some type of 24-hour monitoring system and some sort of alarm that went off when she lied. In my experience though, calling her out just leads to endless circular conversations and more lies. If you were to deconstruct a body by removing all of its skin, muscles and bones, and left the internal organs, circulatory system and nervous system intact, would it survive? If it doesn't survive, what would be the furthest extent to which you could carry out the procedure before death? I'd love to know if a human chimpanzee hybrid is possible, allow mules, liggers, etc. and what that hybrid would be like. Grizzly vs. gorilla fights to death between fully grown and healthy males on different terrains. I've always wondered if you could train a baby's eyes to track independently like a Jackson's chameleon. I figure that maybe if you put a barrier between them and stimulated them with different objects on either side at the same time and do this for long enough, it might work. It'd be interesting to see how the brain would interpret these two different inputs, assuming you could make it work. My brother has a slight birth defect that allows him to move his eyes independently. It is unnerving sometimes because he can focus on two things at once. I remember him driving me somewhere and we were chatting, and after a while I noticed he hadn't looked at the road in a while. Like a long while. He was looking at me while we were chatting. His head was turned such that he was watching the road with one eye and me with the other and having no issues with it. Edit. Row. I don't think any comment of mine has ever garnered so much discussion. I have no clue what the defect is called. He always had it and it was never a big deal. I am younger and they had him tested for all sorts of stuff before I came along. He can move his eyes together, synchronized, and does most of the time, but he can totally just make one eye go in a different direction if he wants to. He has never had any depth perception issues that I am aware of. He is an excellent, if somewhat insane, driver. Let's put Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and Bernie Sanders in charge of Liberia, Ivory Coast, and Sierra Leone respectively, each with as much authority as they choose to exercise, and see which one succeeds or gets their head chopped off first. Winner can have the White House in 2020. When a child is born, the only world he should know is a sterile, white room. The only colors he would view are skin and white. When he's 15, blindfold him, and take him to a Hindu powder festival. When you donate organs, parts of you go inside another person. Over time those cells die and get replaced by the host cells. I want to know if you can replace so much of a person's cells that they are closer to someone else than themselves. Perhaps their newer half will take over. People have gained characteristics of others such as food allergies from cell transplants. Edit. I know only bone marrow transplants affect losing gaining food allergies. Impregnate a woman in space, non-in vitro and I guess at the ISS. Then have her deliver the subject and raise the subject on the ISS hypothetically. Unlimited supplies and the ISS has been expanded to have a lot more people so that the subject isn't stuck encountering the same people over and over. What would the development of the subject be like as a result of growing up in zero gravity? Return to Earth once he is 25 years old and then see the effects of a human experiencing Earth's gravity for the first time as well as the subject's development, etc. Also, the same experiment but on the moon and also one on Mars once we colonize. I want to know if the will to live is enough to save someone from death. Like starve them until they are about to die from malnutrition. Then feed them. Will they die because their body can't absorb the food fast enough? Or does knowing you ate food keep you alive for longer? Kinda relevant. When Allied forces entered concentration camps they often gave the starving anything they had. Often chocolate. and since the food was too rich they would vomit then die. Can we divide all the tall and short people up for about 10 generations and then let them commingle again to see how much the height difference is? See, Netherlands versus China India. I've always wanted to get identical twins and prevent them from seeing their reflection all the way until they are 18-year-old. During that time you'd call one of them the ugliest creature on the planet and the other the most beautiful. Then on their 18th birthday you'd show them their reflection and see how they'd react. Plus to see how their self-esteem would be influenced would be interesting. Probably the one where the Japanese thought it was a good idea to vivisect infants. Actually, a good one came to mind. Take a sperm and an egg and make a baby, but keep it incubated or whatever for longer than 9 months. I heard once that human mothers literally cannot support the child for much longer. I wonder if the child would be born with basic motor skills like babies of other animals are. And I wonder if it would react similarly to the same stimuli as regular babies. This would have to be done several times to truly test 1. The possibility of even producing a child, and 2. Comparing this lab baby with human babies. Varying what is exposed to the lab baby. For science of course. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content bruh. It's free and that's a great price.